I think it's March 31st. Okay. I didn't remember until I heard the tape this afternoon or this morning, excuse me, that we had begun to get hints about the path as long ago as 1990. And because that was done that way, and because he started teaching us about the path that long ago, I'm going to take a little time to tell you where we are now. That class established that the path was the flow of the Christ in which we live and move and have our being, and therefore it is the path on which we walk. It was also pointed out that the devil, quote unquote, cannot put his foot on the path, be totally exploded into the illusion that it is, if it tried to. This is a metaphor, or really an allegory. And so that the only way that we can be beguiled by carnal mind, Satan, devil, to get off the path is either to be seduced off or frightened off. But he has to somehow get us voluntarily to leave. He can't pull us off, and he can't get on it himself. So that was the important thing that was established in that class. Then in the July class of 1992, we were given, I think not until the last day, the name of the path. And the name of the path is Trust the Christ. And so from July until January, we were fooling around with that idea. And it was pointed out in that class that it was very easy to know if you were on the path, which is also, of course, the safe place. If you were in the process of trusting the Christ, you were on the path. At any moment that you are not in the process of trusting the Christ, you are not on the path. You are therefore in the human world, which is under the rule of the devil, and where anything can happen to you, and usually does. So it was over those 2 years, we really cinched down our understanding about path. Now, in January, well, I'll back up a little. I nearly always got the name of the year's work before October when our year begins. But this year, I didn't get any name. So I thought, well, maybe my work is finished and we're not going to have a year's work. But in January, I woke up one morning and the voice saying, this year's work is Trust the Christ. And then there weren't any more words, but the understanding came afterward without using any other methods. Well, now, since we had spent 31 years becoming Methodists, that was very surprising to me. But I called a class, and we did 5 classes on Trust the Christ. The first one in January, laid down the premise that I had been given. The other 4 classes were woodshedding how we went about doing it, sharing successes, sharing failures. Finding out, could we trust the Christ? Did we even want to trust the Christ? And one of the problems that came up was somebody saying, well, but my problem this week was with my kid, my inner kid. You all know a little bit about that from having read Along the Royal Road. And I said, well, she said, how does that square with trusting the Christ without using any other method? And I said, well, like everything we've ever been admonished to do, it means practice. If you're not able to do that, you begin to practice. And at the same time, you continue to use all the methods that you know that help you at the level where you have your problem. So that everybody was very relieved that they didn't have to jump into radical reliance on God when they were still having some human problems, which relieved their concern. The last night, practically at the end, I was talking about the fact that we had practiced that as a flashcard many, many times over the 30 years. Sometimes we worked 6 months on Trust the Christ and weren't very good at it, because it really means radical reliance. And certainly we had never been ordered without any other method. It was just a flashcard. It was a practice. But the question was, how can I get myself to the point of trusting the Christ without any other method? And how will I know when I'm there? And I said, I don't know. But Papa does, so let's take him into meditation and see if we have an answer. And as usual, when I do that, within 30 seconds, the voice said, you will trust the Christ when you have learned that you can't trust anything else. Now that may seem a simple statement, but it's a red-hot principle. It's like you're not willing to give up your humanhood as long as you can find any satisfaction in it, until everything has turned to ashes in the mouth enough times that we get sick and tired of being sick and tired, that we are willing to look for another and better way. And so it will be. I had no intention of passing this last highest lesson on to you this week, but it's already come up, so I just put it on a tray and offer it. Don't worry about it if you're not interested even in trying that. And know, in any case, that we are doing it as an exercise, practice. Some of them are getting very good at it. And it is a miracle worker when you can make it work. No matter what discord arrives, as Joel said this afternoon, whenever it touches your awareness, you have to do something about it. Whenever anything touches that, if you can, remember, trust the Christ and drop all concern, which we will hear from Joel towards the end of the week. You'll find that that whole picture out there dissolves. Joel talked about it has to be dissolved. And I've borne witness to a tremendous amount of healing over these years, but I have never seen anything in my experience that dissolved the picture as rapidly as this work. So if it interests you, try it on for size. If it proves to be too difficult, then you still have 31 years of work to catch up on. And you'll have to get here someday, but nobody says when. Nobody tells you you have to. Now, the other thing I want to establish is that healing work is an absolute necessity for people who are in the infinite way. There isn't anybody else to do it. If not us, then who? So that everybody must be willing to take upon himself the responsibility of developing a consciousness that can heal. And so that's the main thrust for me of this week's work. But in order to do it and do it well, you have to really understand how the world works. And that's why I've given you the pictures. And that's why yesterday I pointed out why you can't go to God for things. And Joel said it today. He said God won't help us because he doesn't operate in that realm. And so, here's what happens when you call for help, or what you will do when somebody calls you for help. All of the problem is in the 10,000 things world. That's the 3D world, which the mind of mankind has created, not God, because it's an illusion, it's a fantasy, it's an Adam dream, and God is not in the illusion. That's in our heads. And that's where it has to be corrected. So, how can we ask God for help? And if we do, how do we have to do it? And how will he respond? Because he will respond. And it goes like this. Somebody calls up and says, I just got fired and I need a job. And I've heard Joel tell the tale of somebody who did that, and he said, what makes you think you need a job? Well, I have to have money. Well, is a job the only way to get it? Well, suppose you inherit it. He said, you won't have it until you know the money is not supply. And that's the way that he would deal with somebody on any specific problem, until he could extract the conditioning, which was a conditioning when the devil had done a number on him, trying to get him to believe that he had to have money in his hands in order to have supply. And that makes us sweat. And that's, when you sweat, you're feeding the devil your blood. He doesn't have, like the Dracula, doesn't have any of his own. He has to get yours. And he gets it the minute we are upset. We begin to feed that monster. So, Joel says, I will help you. Thank you. And he immediately forgets the person and the problem and what it was all about, and goes to the I that he meant when he said, I will help you. And that's where we have to go, is to the I that I am, for help. Now, even that is only the beginning, because that's the stage, it's named, you see. So that's a naming stage, in the sense that Joel gave you his method on the tape this afternoon of saying, I immediately begin. He didn't use this term, but that's what he was doing. He wasn't knowing the truth. Because if anybody says, I know the truth, or I will sit down and know the truth about that, what he's really saying is, I don't know the truth about it. Because if I did, I wouldn't have to sit down. So that to make this statement, know the truth, is a pretty good trap of the devil. And Joel didn't fall into that trap. But what he did was to sit down and remind himself of some statements of truth that he knew that would be pertinent to the telephone call. Namely, probably, I don't know what he said today, but what would come to me in a circumstance like that would be the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And that would bring up, "Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine." And I would, if I needed to, in this stage, I would remind myself of the statements of truth that would fit the situation. As Joel said, that was my preparation. But then, that's only half of the story. The other half now is to shut up and go past I into the nameless great silence, which is the source where all of everything comes from. And you sit, what I call in the lap, and you wait in the lap, and you don't do anything, and you're not finished until you know you don't have to do anything. And that means God is on the field. Now, will God bring a job? No. And this is something that hangs up more people, and I've had to do more explaining on this particular subject than on almost any other thing. Because we think God will get me a job. He won't. And they don't. Well, I'll continue because there are 2 or 3 errors in here that all bunch up together. No, God can't give us anything but himself. That's all he has to give. The job is out here in the man-made world. He didn't make it, and he doesn't supply it. But he, when called on, that flow flows through I and hits the mind. And that's where man makes his world. So when you go to God, you get God, but he will then give you a better mind. The only reason we have the problem is because we have an unillumined mind, a conditioned mind, and all God does is to bring illumination into your mind. In other words, he brightens how you create your world. You're still going to do the creating. But I have seen it happen. Sometimes people will say, "I don't know what to do." And or they will go absolute on me. And let's see, how does that go? That goes, "I know it isn't real." And then I have to say, "No, you don't know it isn't real." Well, I don't want to, I have to paraphrase, I'm making this up now because I can't remember exactly any statement, but it went like this. I want to solve it spiritually. I want to solve it spiritually. And over and over and over again, it has been my experience that when you're doing your best spiritual work, and the flow is flowing, and you know that God is on the field, what happens is the person gets an inner understanding of the right human footsteps to take. And that's the way you might say God operates in human affairs. Not that he comes in and fixes anything, but he will illumine for you the mind that you are using to make your world. Is that clear? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Can you reiterate that again? Just that last part, the last part. It wasn't.
I said he won't operate in the illusion or in the 3D world, but he will bring illumination to the mind that you are using to make your world. Because I think it's been established by now, surely with all we've heard, that man makes his own world every day by what you think. Is that clear and accepted?
No, because I'm having you as the patient or the practitioner. Which one are you talking? I mean,
No, I'm talking about the patient.
okay.
Or the student, as the case may be.
Right.
Yeah. That the student himself will, well, I've had them do this. I say, let's take it into meditation, and you call me tomorrow. And I'll get a telephone, and I'll say, well, you know, I heard from within, da-da, 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 and I say, yeah, that's it. Well, that's what I ought to do. I said, didn't you hear it from your own within? That's what you ought to do. And it's human footsteps. You know? That's not the only way that healing takes place, but very often the problems that I get called for are exactly human problems. And I don't tell anybody what to do humanly. So what I do is get that flow going, and because they called on me, it flows right through to their mind, and it teaches them within themselves what to do. What has happened, nothing has been fixed, the mind has been illumined. That's what God does. He doesn't fix things. He will illumine our mind so that we have a better mind with which to make our world. Because we make our world every day by what we think and what we choose. Clear? Question? Question?
So just to understand it.
I understand.
The flow from the source through the I am, through the mind of the practitioner, without them necessarily receiving something except the flow.
No, I always know what it's going to be. I always know what the patient or the student is going to be.
Oh, you do
told.
know?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
I always
So
know.
it's like a simultaneous
Yes.
receptivity.
Yes. No, I get it first.
Uh-huh.
I always know what it will be.
Right.
And so I'm never surprised when I get the telephone call that says, well, I've decided
Now,
to
suppose the
do this.
patient is blocked. Do you tell them what you received?
Never.
Never.
Never. Well, now, wait a minute. That isn't exactly correct. Once or twice, not many times in all of my years of work, I have been given a direct instruction for a student. And in that case, which there haven't been many, I have said, I have a message for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it is da-da, 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 as the
Right.
case may be. But even in a case like that, it's up to them whether they want to receive it or not to
Right.
receive.
So-
Free will is always in operation.
So you become aware of what you might say the solution is, and they receive it according to their receptivity,
Exactly.
and may or may not receive it in its fullness depending on their
That's
state
right.
of receptivity.
That's right.
And then what? All right, if
well,
it's blocked.
after all, they are students.
Yes,
And
right.
students, and I'm a student.
Right.
So being a student means automatically I have to study and work and make mistakes and learn from my mistakes and try again and get up and wipe off the blood and still try to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so they very often will come back, a week or so later.
Something's just kind of occurred to me. It's like this that comes to them is with them, but it may be layered over, and they have to peel away the onion skins until the solution is uncovered, and then the healing takes place.
Exactly. Because we can't accelerate our progress, but we can delay it
Right.
by resistance and lack of obedience and a tin ear. Worst of all is the tin ear, where somebody just doesn't want to hear what God is saying to him because he still wants so much to do it his way.
Cling to
Yeah.
those layers of
Yeah. But that's the thing I wanted to establish today is the fact that God doesn't fix that problem in the human world. He just enlightens your mind with which you make your world. So
The
he
solution is
responds.
there already.
Absolutely.
But it was hidden in darkness,
That's right.
and the light
Exactly.
reveals what was always there.
And so he always responds.
So solution is already in the mind before even there's a problem presented.
Exactly.
Mind contains the solution to
Exactly.
every problem, and this just brings the light
Yeah.
that makes
That lets you see
makes
it.
one aware
Yeah.
of what was already there.
That's right. And that's exactly the same with healing. You see, there is no such thing as
Right.
healing.
It's revealing.
Yeah. It's just becoming aware that the image that you thought was there, like the mirage on the desert, was never there.
It was really
That's the
perfection
healing.
seen through a glass darkly.
Was never there. You see, as Joel said on Thunder, the snakes were never there. But they were to me if I see them and believe them.
Right.
And so, but the minute that I wake up, what I learn is not that God fixed the snakes for me.
Turn
They
on the
just
light.
never
Those shadows
were
weren't
there.
snakes
That's
anymore.
right.
They were
And never
shadows.
were. Never were.
The light just reveals that they were only shadows.
Exactly.
But perceived dimly, we thought they were snakes.
That is right. And it is perceiving dimly that does it. That's because form is always born in the sleeping state. Don't they?
Other than the fact that now I've decided I have a tinny ear, we were talking about knowing, okay, the comment, wait on the Lord, and we were discussing experiences, and I remember one time I was in a very toxic relationship, abusive, and I was waiting and trying to see the Christ of the person and doing the whole thing and meditating and trying to heal my illusion of what I thought I was seeing or his whatever. Finally, right, but I would call for help. I didn't know you at the time. I'd call for help, and I'd get, wait on God, wait on the Lord, and stand on the Mrs. Eddy, stand on the principle. Okay, so I was waiting, and finally one morning I just got out and excused my language, threw him out, literally, right?
This character.
Totally, exactly,
Yeah.
totally free. And up until, and it was like, oh my God, that was self-will. And it wasn't. It was so harmonious. I never laid eyes on him. He was out of my complete. But I had to stand up and go thus far and no further.
Yes.
Now the confusion was that I thought I wasn't waiting on the Lord to heal or remove. It felt like I did it. Or it felt like. And it scared me that I was going against principle. And I'm up against the same situation in work now, where I'm trying to heal or, let it be healed or removed, when all I got to do is say, thus far, I'm not going back there anymore, And again, it feels like I didn't wait on God. God didn't heal or remove it. I'm doing it.
And that could be, Dulcie, your decision without having waited on the Lord. It could be. But let me point something out to you. We have only two rules for action. The first is respond when asked. The second is, if you're at a crossroads and you have a decision to make, you don't make it unless you know instantly which way to go. But if you're in any kind of quandary, that's when you wait on the Lord. And this method works. But like Joel says, you can't do nothing.
Right.
Waiting on the Lord doesn't mean doing nothing. He said you have to do something about it, so that when you're waiting on the Lord, what you are doing is you get yourself in this lap consciously and deliberately and wait for instruction. And the way he does it, based on experience, is that you will find yourself in the midst of the action without having made a decision.
Right.
That's waiting on the Lord. St. Teresa says waiting on the Lord is the best action we can ever take.
Don't we also meet people to unmeet them?
Don't we what?
We meet people to unmeet at various stages in our lives.
Well, the challenges will always be there. Whatever challenge our particular script calls up, we surely will have it in our lives. And if we do get rid of it without, you see, a spiritual healing, quote unquote, never hurts anybody. I remember many, many years ago, two kids in my class that were married, and they were struggling with the marriage. In fact, we were doing relationship classes. And I can't remember which one of them came. I believe it was the husband, and said to me, I don't want to work on this anymore. I just want out. And I said, well, don't do anything now. Wait until after the classes are over and let God do it. Because if God does it, nobody gets hurt. And that's he did, and she did. And one day, quietly and calmly, they just realized it wasn't working. And I can't remember which one moved out. I think he did. They're the best of friends today. They're still in class, but they've simply recognized they had no business ever being married because they had nothing in common as to their lifestyle. But instead of struggling and sweating about it, they decided to let God do the severing, and when he does, there's no pain. Nobody got hurt. Somebody had a hand up.
What was Jacqueline's question? I didn't hear the question back here. What was Jacqueline's question to you?
Oh, Jacqueline's question was, don't we meet people to unmeet them?
Usually they fall away without your doing anything about it.
Oh, I couldn't say usually. I don't think it's usually they fall away.
Well, some
I
fall
think
away.
if you
Okay.
are growing spiritually.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
And then they just fall away.
If you are doing proper spiritual work, as Joel says, he said it'll be healed or they will be removed. That's Joel's statement. And I've seen that too. But was that what you want to know, Alexander?
Yeah, I don't understand the question. I understood the answer.
Oh,
but I
she
don't
meant,
understand
I think what she meant was simply that we are given these challenges in our life where people enter our lives that really are never supposed to be there except for the challenge, and then they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
We meet them in order to learn how to unmeet them. That clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know whether that's right or wrong. I have no argument with it.
What was the first step that you mentioned? I didn't get that. I got the second step, not the first.
Joel's first step that he gave us this afternoon. And by the way, this is only if he needed to. Some days you're not high enough in consciousness and you feel that you need to take this first step. You don't always need to. In fact, he certainly got to the point towards the end of his life where he never came out of it. And I don't come out of it very often. I mean, I work every hour on the hour, but there are I'm working in between the hours too. And that fits what Joel said to me once. I have one ear always tuned in, and only one ear for the world. And if that ear is always tuned in, you're always available for flow and instruction. And actually, that brings the telephone call, do you see, that needs to be fed at that moment. Somebody had a hand up. Well, okay. What I want to establish today, so that you will be comfortable with the idea that God will not fix your problem. And that's because why Joel can say correctly, don't take your problems to God. Get God, he says. And then what I want to disestablish forever is even when your problem is solved, God hasn't solved it. He has not entered your problem world. What he has done is give you of himself illumination into your mind, and then you still are the arbiter of your world. See that? It's very important for us to understand it because we have to be willing to accept the responsibility of being the maker of my world. Yeah? The mind of man makes man. Well, question? Hard to take? Well, Joel says, his axiom, of course, that fits that is, there is nothing that can happen to me that is not an outpicturing of my own state of awareness. Meaning, I am in control of it all, even when I don't seem to be in control. Right, Eunice?
Yes.
So in other words, our free will is choosing what to entertain in our consciousness,
Which will
which
manifest
determines what manifests in our experience.
Absolutely.
And God has nothing to do with that. That's our moment by moment, day by day
Exactly.
choice
Yeah.
to choose to either let
And you see,
do nothing, which the world believes will pour in, or to consciously maintain truth, which outpictures harmoniously, or et cetera,
Right. And
et
the
cetera.
world just doesn't know that. And when it does know that, then we can usher in the millennium, because that's what has to be known, is that nobody ever did anything to anybody.
Dr. Joe talks about a point where you're no longer at choice. It's continuously feeding
that's
you.
it.
But that's just
But see,
a certain state.
As I keep saying, you're not a human being then.
Right.
You're not human anymore.
But until such time, we do have choice.
And you always have free will. You always have free will. Even when you are living under the guidance of God in a totally God-governed life, you have the will given to you to get off the path if you want to. In other words, he never puts a noose around your neck. This is an activity of love. You see, God is a God of love. And so that all of this manifestation of himself in and through the human world, not human, but you know what I mean, manifested form, is an activity of love. And
You know what's incredible to me is this, that it's becoming clear that everything I've read for so long and studied and pondered is all of a sudden lit up, that God is just continuously
That's right.
pouring itself forth.
Right.
It's, with nonstop.
Right.
And it's like the switch is over here whether we let it in or not.
Absolutely.
And it's what we do with what we know and how we go about.
it's just like the sunshine. You can
We
keep
can
yourself out of it if you want
Close
to.
the window, the blinds, or open them up.
And it's absolutely like that. God is constantly
Yeah.
showering the universe with love.
All of itself.
Yeah.
It's allness.
It's all of
Allness.
itself, absolutely.
And we can receive as much as we can become aware of it, choose to become aware of.
Yes. And that brings me to the awareness exercise.
Barbara, can I ask you one question?
Yes.
Analogy. A person walks up to you, or however it may occur, and inadvertently breaks your arm.
Inadvertently does what?
Breaks your arm.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say it's the power that
There's no such
realizes-
thing as inadvertent. That doesn't exist.
All right, when I say
There are
inadvertently,
no-
I mean without malice of forethought. This
No,
is
and he's
not
being a
intention.
pawn in your script.
Are they present?
He's being a pawn in your script. There are no
That's very
accidents.
hard to know.
There are no accidents. Everything happens because of the way we choose to make our life. Yes, ma'am.
Barbara, in your earlier tape this morning, you talked about joining the practitioner in the upper room or the teacher in the upper room. And
It's the same thing as I have a lot of metaphors for the silence.
and I know what you're referring to.
My upper room is in the lap
Yeah.
or
Is it
in the
advisable?
silence. It all means in the silence.
Is it advisable for your students, for these students in your classes, to try to do this as an exercise?
To try to do what?
Just sit down very quietly in the silence and kind of tune in many times a day to the teacher, practitioner consciousness, recognizing.
Oh, sure. Because no teacher is a teacher, first of all. God's the only teacher. And no practitioner is a practitioner unless and until and at the moment of being in the silence. That's where the healing doesn't come from there, but the illumination that lets the patient or the student recognize the healing comes from there. Yeah? So that's one of the reasons I run my work the way I do, is because I can take people ahead 100 years while I'm silent.
I prefer the silent work to the talking work. But
Everybody's entitled to get his
goodness knows I had mine.
that's
And I was a tough
stubborn.
questioner. But I want to apologize to Bill for having been so hard to teach.
And he says,
But that's the stuff that teachers are made of. Wasn't, I had no idea teaching at that point. Awareness exercise. Although if anybody has a question, I will take it. Okay. Now, yesterday,
let's be aware of the left foot.
your left foot. Be aware. Everybody able to do it? Good. Now,
Be aware. Now increase your awareness
of your left foot.
increase it. And what happened, if anything? Yeah.
Initially, when I used to foot, I was only aware of the front portion of my foot.
That's because
It's so difficult.
yeah.
It's just taking instruction. You'll have the same trouble with God. You have to get to the point where when he says jump, you just say how high. And those come back with questions. Well, you want me to jump once or twice? Or you want me to jump on my left foot or my right foot? No, he just said, I said jump. You see? Practice just doing what you're told. We're going to give you another step. Let's be aware of our left foot. Now increase it. Increase your awareness. Everybody did it? What happened? Yeah.
My foot seemed to be larger, increasing in size.
Yeah. It wasn't your foot that got larger, it was your awareness that got larger. And that's what I want to establish, and there's a very, very important reason for it, which is discovery in a minute or two. And that is for you to have the certainty and the security and the assurance that you have that faculty, that you have that instrument named awareness faculty, that it will go where you tell it to go, wiping out everything else, and that it will increase if you ask it to. Now, could anybody tell me why that's so important?
Faculty become aware of the presence of the Bible.
You got it. You got it. Because it'll be the same thing when you're in the silence. And that is how we make our soul grow. The soul faculty is awareness faculty. That is how we get our soul to be bigger, especially to become more aware of infinity. Is that clear? Because the awareness faculty is your soul faculty, and it's as big as you are aware of the infinity of your consciousness. In other words, mine is probably very gentle because that's all the infinity I'm aware of. But when I really know that this faculty, this tool, that God gave me to get in contact with that infinity, that nameless science, that it will expand and become more aware just because I ask it to be. It'll become aware of anything I ask it to be more aware of, including God. You got it?
Exercise last night.
Excuse me, dude.
No, I did the exercise last night, and right after I went into meditation, I was, it's very hard meditation, very high level of consciousness.
Maybe you're all running ahead of me.
Okay.
You're running ahead of me. And that's just fine. Now, someday you may have to teach this to somebody else. And this is the very sacred part. Because you have to go from the knowledge before you can speak unknown. And if you can't convince them that they really have this processing and that if they do, you get out, then you're never going to get to the end. They're all going to take the next step. You're all very good at that now. Oh, excuse me. Wait, you had a question before we move on?
The only question I had, maybe it's late.
Okay, let's do this then. Maybe you won't have the question anymore.
Okay, now, okay, say it gently with me. Now be aware of I. And remember, you don't know how to do that. You don't know how to do that. But your awareness faculty does. So trust it. Ask it. It knows exactly where to go to be aware of I. Anything happen? Yes.
I find that in my experience, it's a little bit easier for me to be aware of the eye than of the foot, which somehow forms a picture. It's like this eye has no form for me. I really don't know
It
the
doesn't
size,
have
the
any.
structure, or anything
You
else.
can't have a picture of I.
And that's why it's easier for me.
But so, were you aware of I?
I felt much more in tune with that than with the leg which had it.
No, not in tune. I, when you are aware of I, reveals itself to you as I. Just like your foot reveals itself to you as foot and not toe or ear when you send your awareness to be aware of that. Likewise, when you send your awareness to be aware of I, if it goes to I reveals itself to your awareness as I. Is that what happened?
I'm not sure. Then I guess I
it's
didn't.
all right.
If I'm not
There's
sure.
plenty of practice. We've got lots of years. We have infinity to get perfect at this. What else? What happened to anybody else? Yes.
Greater peace, quiet. I can't say nothingness. I can't explain it.
Well, yes, you could say nothingness because there isn't any image, right?
No.
Yeah. No thing was there. Huh?
When I reached that point, I felt this overwhelming relaxation throughout my body.
That very often happens. Did that happen to anybody else? Wayne?
I just felt a glow around my head.
That can happen. Anybody else? Yes.
Like an expansion.
You had expansion.
expansion.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, something beaming from within me, going up.
You're doing so well. Either you're great or I'm really a good teacher. Are you being prepared? Let me ask you a question. Where was I?
In the center.
Where?
Center.
I can't hear you.
In the center.
What center?
Middle, right?
Middle of what?
Of me.
Nope, it ain't.
No,
So you have to continue to work on that.
just
Somebody else tell me where you discovered
Wasn't
I.
anywhere.
I don't even know where you were.
where I was.
That's right. Did you find out it's outside of your body? Did you?
Yes,
Because it is.
yes.
It's outside of your body. I am not in my body. My body is in me. It is in I that me lives and moves and has its being. That's where me lives. And it's not in my body. Has any of you ever heard the tape on which Joel tries to get the students to this realization when he says, look down at my feet and see if I am in my feet? That never worked for me, unfortunately. I tried and it just never worked. But in 1988, God gave us in a class the awareness exercise. And that's what I meant when I said they all hit it. In what, not all, about 8 to 10 students hit it. And they were shocked to realize it was outside of their body, and they knew it. Now, what would that do to your fear of death?
Eradicated.
It would eradicate it.
Yes.
You never have been in this body. This body is in you. And this body is held together as an amalgamation of cells and what's the other one that starts with an M? Molecules and systems. I love systems. All of it held together in your shape so that it looks like you by the magnetic field force of your eye. You remove it, the body falls apart. Because this is just building blocks. But this matter, which is the building blocks, is also mind. But the mind of I can take all of these lower elements and put it together in your shape and create your body for its use for this lifetime. But it has never been in your body. Your body is in it. Yes, Wayne?
It is awareness exercise too. Is it possible to, because when I practice at home or in the apartment, I could feel more sensitive about my ears more so than down at my feet and my legs.
Yeah, well, your I was wanting to rush you. But I don't let people rush me through this exercise because there's always some people in the class who may be less in tune to their body and have never felt their body. I've had students who've never ever been in touch with their body or felt it. And you know, one of the laws of body is rest, nutrition, and exercise, i.e. love your body. Take care of your body. I is responsible if my awareness lets it. See that? Dulcie had a question.
It was the airplane that Joe used to say, I'm not, that used to give me great comfort.
The plane is in me.
The plane is in my consciousness, not, well, it gave me comfort, but I would get in the plane, and until just now, and that expansion, I realized I was not expanding outside of my...
Of the plane?
Right. And therefore I thought...
How big do you think I am?
Exactly, and when you did that, it just dawned on me, because, I really feel that. I call it like, it feels like, for a lack of a word, an aura just going,
Right.
So all I have to do is expand it outside, and then
And you can go,
wherever I am.
you bring it up on wings of love like I do.
And if,
And down on wings of love as well.
Yeah.
Don't forget what I is. I is pure spirit, and it is in absolute close touch with the nameless infinity. Consciousness. The other name for that is consciousness. So, how big is I? It's as big as I am aware of. See that? Because its potential is infinite. So it's only my awareness that keeps my I locked up and keeps it from functioning to infinity. Okay? All right, well, you're so good. We'll just go right straight through. Okay. Now, let's be aware of the silence behind I. Okay. Anything happen?
It's like an expansion and folding out and out and out.
Endlessly. Right? If you want to sit here for a month, it would still go. If you were in it. And that's all there is, folks.
At first I was sinking, sort of sinking, and some peace.
That's peace.
Descended from me.
That's
The body
right.
was sort of sinking.
That's right.
Yes.
And that is meditation. Now, if we still have to take the steps, we take the steps. And even sometimes we have to sit down and read a book. Most of us who've been at it for a long, long time don't have to do that anymore, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Anything to get you fastened into the step. And then you get your awareness functioning, and when it functions really well, you move it to I, and when that is functioning well, you go to the silence. Now, you have to really perfect the first step, so that you know that no matter where you send that awareness, it will go, and it will increase. You have to be sure of that, because if you're not sure of it, you'll send it to I, and you'll fall down. And then you'll have to go back and build the floor of your building anyway, building your spiritual consciousness. You are building your spiritual consciousness with this, you see. After lots of practice, you can take the leap into the lap. You don't have to go through any steps at all. Just, I can be there. And I can be there while I'm talking. And so can you. It's just a question of practice. And it's a question of trusting your instrument, trusting that faculty. Okay? Any questions? I'd love it if you'd practice until tomorrow. Okay, and then we'll talk about it. Okay.